In the depths of human psyche, there are legends, folklore passed through generations, not to explain, but to warn. Few tales have whispered as chillingly as Mermaid Swamp. Created by a Japanese developer by the name Yuri and RPG Maker. And wait, isn't that my name? Mermaid Swamp is more than just pixelated ghost stories. It's a deeply atmospheric psychological horror experience rooted in the sins of the past, the lies we tell ourselves, and the horrifying weight of guilt that no body of water can ever drown. This is a game that feels small on the surface, but once you wade in, you'll find the waters run disturbingly deep. And before we really get into it, guys, I want to take this time to, first plug in my YouTube channel. Thank you. I actually don't know where it's going to be at. It's going to be somewhere, okay? Please subscribe to this new YouTube channel. It is basically going to be a gaming channel. And before we get into things, I would like to say, please do the Holy Trinity for me. Like, comment, and subscribe. Actually, hold out on that subscribe portion. Why don't you watch the whole video, and by the end of it, I think I would have earned your subscription. And if you are new to this channel, we usually go through the full game in its entirety, and then we get into the deep dive. So if that doesn't sound great to you, please utilize the chapters down below. But if you're ready to just hear a yappinator go yapping, well, strap in, because it's going to be a good one. The game begins with the dream. We are underwater, but we aren't drowning, and we can see. Then a shadowy figure appears in front of us. Then we are awoken to a car full of people. These are our college pals, and we get a good feel for each of them and their personalities as the conversation goes on. So let me introduce each and every one of them. This is Yuta Takahashi. He's the cheery one of the group. He's bubbly, nice, and always wears a smile. He's also quite dumb at times and is the sole reason that we get lost in the mountains in the first place. Then this beautiful lady is Yuka Kikuchi. I hope I'm saying her name right. She's the girly girl of the group, nice and soft-spoken. She seems to be very close to the MC Rin and also seems to have a crush on Yuta. Just my speculation, of course. We have Seitaro Wakasuji. He's the smarty pants of the group, but loyal to a fault. He also likes to give Rin a very hard time, but I kind of ship them together, so I think he's just bullying her because he likes her. And finally, we have the main character, Rin Yamazaki. She's the main character, a bit tomboyish and has quite the mouth on her, but she's nice, caring, and a scaredy cat. But despite her being so scared, she is the first to always confront most conflicts. The four of them were actually going to some vacation trip, and Yuta thought he knew a shortcut through the mountains, but he ended up getting everybody lost. Then his car breaks down just to put the cherry on top. Of course, Ren gets out to see the problem, but can't see anything wrong with the car. And that's when an old man makes his appearance in the fog and gives us shelter at his big-ass mansion. Awesome. He feeds us and tells us how lonely he is as the old man of this big house, so it's nice to have people around. But while exploring the home, we go outside and we find this monument. The old man jump scares us and tells us what the stone actually says. He begins to recount a legend or a folktale. There was once a man who one day found a mermaid shoreside. She was beautiful, unlike anything he'd ever seen. He was so smitten, in fact, that he refused to let her disappear. He'd bring her back to his home and put her in a fish tank and filled the fish tank with swamp water. The mermaid would over time become a decayed version of herself. Her skin grew scaly, her voice grew hoarse, and she began to look like a corpse until she became one. And now this monument was created to remember her and remember the mistake of the man. Wow, that was very depressing. We would then call it a night and go to bed, and yet we have another one of those weird dreams. But we are suddenly awakened. Rin, noticing that Yuka felt a bit ill yesterday at dinner, would go to check on her, and as expected, Yuka was actually beginning to feel sick and wants to rest out for the day. Rin would go to find Yuta and Seitaro, and they come back with bad news. The car is totally busted, and now they're out of options. But again, the old man comes in clutch and doesn't seem to mind them staying at the manor. And actually, this lines up perfectly because he had some business to attend to in the nearby village and wants someone to watch the house while he's gone. Couldn't be more perfect. He does warn us though, we are not to go anywhere as the fog is very thick and advises us to stay inside. Ren's pretty happy though, as she would love to take a bath in this huge ass home, and so Pixel Boobies! Let's. While bathing, the water would suddenly turn muddied and she'd scream in horror, causing Satoru to rush into the bathroom, but he's instead fed with a knuckle sandwich. When things calm down, the two of them look at the water and notice it's swamp water, but they chop it up to it just being a plummeting issue since the swamp is literally outside. With the day being as stressful as it is, Rin would go off to sleep. However, before doing so, she'd remember she needs to plug in her phone, and guys, I nearly crashed out on live because I was hard stuck here. Okay, hey. What? I know you're fucking lying! Oh my god. I know you're fucking lying, bro. This is all I'm talking about, man. How the fuck am I supposed to know the phone's just in this fucking... I'm about to kill somebody. Hold on. Where did you grab it? Come on, Gamer Suge. My game is bugged! No! My game's bugged. Son of a bitch. What? Something's in the way. I had a fucking inventory this whole time. The game doesn't teach you anything. Okay, cool, yeah. Alright, that'll do it. Bedtime, yes. Go to fuck to sleep. He said, so it was you, yeah. But the game didn't tell me I could go into my inventory. How have I been playing for 57 minutes and I have never once had an inventory? Anyways, when figuring it out, Rin would wake up in her dream once again. However, weird thing is, she was able to move around just fine, but then she would notice a shadow figure scurrying about. When following it, it would go to Yuka's room and enter her body. Rin is suddenly jolted awake, scared shitless, and now worried for Yuka. But when checking on her, Yuka, oite wa. Yuka is now swollen, unable to speak. Satoru yells for us to call an ambulance, but the phone line is dead and the house's power seems to be off as well, meaning our phone never charged from last night. Satoru left in a search for help, but he comes back empty-handed, saying how he nearly got lost himself and that the fog is truly thick around these parts. And now Yuka's life is in danger. The fog is thickening and the group has no car to leave with. The situation is not looking good at all. But Satoru believes there should be a map of some kind in the house, and if they can find it, they'll be able to locate the nearby village for help. And so, let the search begin. Not long after the search, Yuta begins to act weird. Throughout the house, paintings of very beautiful women can be seen. They are always submerged in water, always sinking. I'm guessing these are the mermaids. But Yuta, despite his friend literally dying, seems to be more focused on the painting's beauty than actually finding the map. And we keep finding him spacing out and muttering, sorry. Then the homie just runs off and disappears. We continue to look around and we go to the second floor. We'd find all types of weird stuff. We'd find children's diary of how they were sad of how the fish were being treated. Then having an illustration of the Garden of Delights, which is basically a painting warning against temptation and the perils of earthly pleasures. aka stealing a mermaid for yourself and killing them because you gave it swamp water instead of pure sea water. The pH levels weren't. Rin would also find a newspaper clipping dated 1972, August 8th, talking about how a family of 3 drowned in an irrigation channel, or I think that's what it's called. It's usually the filtering channel from, like, natural water, and it filters out to the water you can drink. Anyway, of course, we also get jump scared. What's the master's room? He's like, Mad Yuri's funny. Shut up. Okay. Okay, yeah. Made my eyes water with that one. After finding enough items, Seiichiro would give us a lantern and a lighter for when it gets dark. He tells us to give the other one to Yuta, but then when going down to his room, we hear moaning sounds through the door. Rin's dumbass thinks man is straight up jerking it and refuses to enter. Like, bro, if this man dies, you killed that man. Like, that is some sinner shit right there. Eventually, Rin would go off and try to get some rest, but fails to do so and would instead go to the building separate from the main house for clues. The place is dark, slimy, and not fit to live in at all. She'd need a list of things to correctly search the place for the next day. She'd need some rope, cleaning agents, and a stick of some kind. However, she would see something in the lake from afar, and when going to check it out, Yuta would sneak up from behind, and something's off about him. He's much more aggressive than normal, asking us why we were there and that we should just get some rest, even saying shit like, "Are you refusing me?" when we disagree. But alas, we listen and go off to bed as he searches the home by himself. When sleeping, we'd have another one of those dreams. This time, however, we'd see the children we read about in the newspaper. They would ask their grandmother if the mermaid was mad for what they did to her. Then she'd reply, "Of course, but she can't hurt us because she's afraid of us." But for outsiders, if any are to enter this home, they will face the wrath of the mermaid's curse. And so the old man knew that this curse existed and still led us to the home. The next morning, Rid would go to check up on Yuka, but again, Yuta is acting super weird. But he doesn't seem to have done anything to Yuka, so I guess it's fine. Seiichiro and Rin would go on to eat breakfast, but quickly realize that they are running out of food and that only snacks remain. It's time to get searching. Going back to the rundown home and seeing a shiny object, and when getting a key, we fall and hit our head. And when waking up, Yuka is in front of us, all better. Yeah, we're concussed. This is a dream. We're comatose. For a second, we are so happy and jolly to see our friend on her feet, but things quickly get less fun when she tells us that she's a hostage, then begs for us to return her until we get this scene. 逃げないで、助けて、返して、返して、返して、返して。ゆか。返して。But then she's actually awoken this time, so it was a dream. Or was it a vision? After doing mental gymnastics to figure out where the cleaning agents were for the slimy stairs, we find a mop. And make our way to the second floor. After solving this clock puzzle, we get a bottle of liquid. And then when we go upstairs, we would find a room filled with fish tanks. And when reaching inside, something would grab her. But it's okay because we got a fucking bottle. I'll eat my own words because the bottle turns out to be a bottle of acid, which Rin uses to open up the boarded door. While exploring, we'd find a toolkit with a hammer inside, and when leaving, the phone would ring and Yuka's voice can be heard on the other side. Rushing back to Yuka's room, we'd find Yuta just standing over her body. Rin snaps and yells at him to get away from her, and homie pulls out a goddamn knife and begins to chase us through the hallways. Rin remembers he began acting strange when looking at the paintings hung around the home, and so she goes to every single painting in the entire building and destroys every last one of them. Then he suddenly collapses to the floor, and when waking up, Yuta seems to be his old self again and not remembering a thing of what he done. This seems to have shaken Rin up quite a bit, and she tells Satoru that she wants to walk to a nearby village. She can't keep waiting here and looking for a map that doesn't exist. Obviously, Satoru already tried this and it's a very dumb idea, and so he shuts it down immediately. But Rin ends up going anyways, and to nobody's surprise, Rin gets lost and has another dream. It's just a family of three. They left the home and became outsiders, and I guess that's why they died in the riverbank. Satoru now has to look for Ren's dumbass because he told her not to go, but she just ignored him. While looking for Rin, he'd find that village that he was looking for earlier, and that's when an old lady would just start speaking riddles. And then some random guy just yells for us to leave and get out. Okay, rude, I guess. And then up ahead, we'd find a gravesite of the old man's family. Yeah, remember that guy? Haven't mentioned him in a long time. Sushida, I believe his name was. So it's really starting to seem like his family died due to the curse and the burden of the secret that they must keep. Satoru would find Rin and bring her back to the home. Here, she'd finally tell him about the curse and how it connects to both Yuka and Yuta. But of course, Satoru doesn't believe her and dismisses it. Rin said fuck all that and thinks that the mermaid and the swamp have some type of connection, and so she just straight up dives into the swamp out front, finding a hairpin. But again, is grabbed and almost drowns as the shadow murmurs, and again, this boy Satoru saves her once again. Better man than me. Satoru is starting to get a serious headache and wants to just call it a day. Unable to sleep, Rin would once again wake up and go exploring. Not gonna lie, I feel like her exploring permit should be revoked. She has gone too many times getting lost, hurt, or concussed. It's revoked. But she goes to the mansion and finds her way into a boiler room. She would find a car key, then she would find some rope and use said rope to go deeper into the building, which she then finds a map, but it's only for the area surrounding the swamp. Then we get spooked once again. Satoru wakes up and fucking dies of a headache. I know it's probably because of the curse, but I'd like to think that Rin caused this because she's just been unhinged so far. However, Rin comes back to the home and finds Satoru to be acting all weird, saying how he's scared and how he just wants her to be by his side at all times. But of course, we refuse this advancement, and Satoru starts showing signs of being cursed, just like Yuta, and he starts chasing us. Rin just kicks the hell out of him and snaps him out of it forcefully. Satoru starts to kind of believe in the mermaid theory and starts to listen to Rin a bit. He goes off to do some research on the mermaid folktale, and Rin goes off on a boat to find what the map had marked in the first place. They find a plot of land in the middle of the swamp and find a grate which leads down underground. And when coming to, it leads to 5 giant tanks filled with women's corpses, bloated and preserved. Satoru finally cracks the mystery wide open. The legend was simply a facade. What if the mermaids were just stand-ins for actual victims? A man finds a woman on the seashore and fell in love with her in the water, kidnaps her and throws her into the tank of water because that's when she was most beautiful, and the girl's body began to bloat, became hardened, cold, then she died. And the fact that there are 5 tanks with the same bloated bodies that look the exact same way may even point to the killer being most attracted to their bloated body corpse, and that's why he chooses to preserve them like they are. It's gross stuff. Seiichiro adds further that the legend was created to keep outsiders from getting involved in the mermaid's creation, but that doesn't help them with Yuka as Seiichiro goes back to the home, but Rin hears a voice of the first victim and she finishes her sentence finally, saying, "Return me to the earth." Rin finally understands, and so using some dynamite she planned to cause a cave-in and return the ladies to the earth. And as we escape, the tears of the girls flow out of Rin's eyes. Once going back to the mainland, the old man makes his appearance. He knew of the real tale. He's the one that cut off the power. He's the one that went to the village and kept them all quiet. He did all of this. But he is no saint. He still found the mermaids, no, the preserved corpses as beautiful. Thus, now with the short time he has left, he will mourn from all of those he lost. His loved ones, his delusional ancestors, his family. And now with the car now working, Yuta having the map and the fog lessening, and Yuka mysteriously all better, it leaves you with questions. What was wrong with Yuka? Why did Yuta and Seiichiro go mad? Why were they able to communicate with the so-called mermaids if they were already dead? And if the legends were truly just a facade, what was all that supernatural mumbo-jumbo? Was the curse truly real, or was it just another delusion? Well, that's for you to decide as the game ends. Now, the ending in which I just went over is the very best ending you can achieve. No one dies, and secrets are exposed and understood. That is the point of the game. There was never any curse, the only curse being that of the past, and how it's gone and affected an entire generation to come. Now, what happens if someone does die in the group? What happens if the legends are left misunderstood? The game actually has 3 other endings after the one we just witnessed. So let's get into them, shall we? The first ending we'll be covering is by far the worst one. Everyone dies and the secrets are left clouded. If you are to set the fire for Yuka on like day 1 or 2 or whatever, she'll die. And Yuta, when finding that out, will lash out and kill himself, or at least someone possessing his body would kill him. I'm not really sure, but all he would say is, I failed, I failed, I failed. He'll run off, kill himself, and when we do find his body as Seiichiro, he would be kind of surprised, saying that it hurts and that the knife is in his neck and that it hurts. And if you dodge the attack made by Seiichiro on day 3, he'll die as well. The floor will give out and an axe will impede his gut. And you know, with him bleeding out and a lot of pain, he doesn't want to die like that and instead jumps into the swamp. Rin would try to press forward and find the mermaid's body, except this time someone will lock her there and for a very long time, and so she'd actually eat the mermaid's body and go insane from her actions. And frighteningly enough, the old man would find her and we'd see the birth of a new legend off of cruelty of others. It'd come full circle. This is exactly how the mermaid story became to be. She'd completely snap and run into the forest laughing like a madman. The second ending we'll cover is called Forever Deep. This ending is if you let Yuka and Yuta die, but you actually keep Seiichiro alive. In this ending, they'd actually blame the mermaid's curse on their friend's death. And so they would be trapped on the mountain for days until the two of them would drown themselves in that very swamp. And the final and most sad ending is when Yuta and Yuka survive, but Seiichiro does not. In this ending, Rin is actually unable to get into the mermaid's room, in which keeps the secrets hidden. She'd give up and go back to the lake or to the swamp, whatever you want to call it, burdened by how she promised Seiichiro she'd get out of here. But she has no way of doing so. And so she'd snap and delude herself that she saw Seiichiro in the fog and jumps into the swamp, basically drowning herself. Yuta would go in to help, but he is fucking shot, leaving the secret completely hidden and the cycle to continue. The old man is completely a savage. He's not only a necrophiliac, he traps Rin and forces cannibalism upon her, lies and starts an entirely new legend, and fucking shoots a college kid. This dude is absolutely a menace. Do not let his old exterior even try to delude you. And this one's kind of off the jump here. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna say, but I know I want to say it. A big part of this game is if the curse was genuinely mystical or supernatural, or if the burden was actually the curse the entire time. The curse was the secrets that have been left behind for generations to keep secret and burden them from birth. But I think, interestingly enough, that both games or both instances make a lot of sense. Because on one end, on the best ending, when you do figure out the curse behind the mermaids, and when you do get the true ending and you bring them back to the earth, the fog mysteriously subsides, and the old man gives you the map, and you are able to drive out of there. On all of the endings where you don't ever find the mermaids, or you blame the mermaid's curse, or you get shot before you can find out the mermaid, the fog remains that thick. You are trapped there until you find that very thing. But at the same time, you're like, well, the entire thing was that it was never a mermaid. It was just a list of murders and people who kept quiet about them. And it just kind of makes you wonder, like, what in the world was truly going on. Yuka did in fact become swollen. What the fuck does setting a fire have to do with her well-being? Where are these possessions coming from? There's so much supernatural shit, but at the very end of the day, the whole game is centered around the fact that the mermaids were simply just human beings. But then, on the same note, how the fuck was Rin able to dream these things? How was Rin able to see these shadowy figures? How was Rin able to speak to these things, to these mermaids, to these corpses? They're already long dead, so how? And I think that is like one of the bigger questions here, because on one end, yeah, it does look completely like, yeah, this is supernatural, but by the end you drive off and Yuka, it was all a dream. She's all better now. But at the same time, bro, we was literally driving to the hospital. That means when we carried her, she was still weird looking. She was still a mermaid. So that being said, I think that is why I really do enjoy this game, because you could really choose whichever way you would like to think about it, but it doesn't make much sense either way, or it makes a lot of sense either way. But we're going to deep dive into why I believe that this game works in both ways, so why not get into that? See, look, I'm not gonna lie. I love Peeps. I know it's not Easter no more, but these guys, they are so good to me. And it brought like a little question in my mind. I wanted to preference this, right? I know that I have a very diverse audience, people all over the world, so this might be a really tough question. But what do you guys think has the best food that is associated with a certain holiday? So for example, here in America, where I'm from, blah blah blah, when I think about Thanksgiving, I think about sweet potatoes. I think about turkey. You know what I'm saying? I think about these things. When I think about Christmas, I think about eggnog. And then when Easter, I think about Peeps. Come on now, you're not beating peeps. And so my question is, what do you guys truly think is the best food associated with a certain holiday? In the comments down below, I would like you to just put the holiday and then the type of food. It could be anything. It could be Cinco de Mayo. It could be, that's all I know. For me, I think I already answered it, but I really, really, really enjoy Thanksgiving. And not only just for the sweet potatoes. The reason why I like the sweet potatoes, by the way, is because my parents, they like mash it and it's like so creamy and yummy. And then they put honey in it, and then they melt it. They put melted marshmallows on top of it. It's so good. I digress though. I think my real favorite is Thanksgiving, but not because of the sweet potatoes, but because of my Caribbean side of my family's plantains. They are so good, and I'm not talking about the plantain like chips. No, I'm talking about the butter, like super ripe, sweet plantains. Those are so good. I love those. And also, if you guys made it to this far in the video, let's say what are we gonna say for the people, because I like seeing all the people that made it kind of far in the video. Let's say let's say Jessica Wessica. I have too many of these. Jessica Wessica, bro. Let y'all know, bro. Jessica Wessica. How do you spell that? Just replace the J with W. I don't know, bro. Anyway, back to the video. One of the most striking elements in Mermaid Swamp is the aesthetic of rot. The game doesn't rely on jump scares or flashy monsters. In fact, I don't think there's any monsters at all. Its horror is organic, slow, and claustrophobic. The swamp itself feels like a living organism, oozing into the walls, soaking into the characters' dreams. You'll notice how characters begin to act strangely. Yuka, the first of fall, is ill with a grotesque skin condition that mirrors that of fish scales. Yuta becomes obsessed with a pretty woman and eventually unravels into disturbing madness. These aren't random horror elements. These are symbolic manifestations of guilt, delusion, and the human tendency to deny the truth when it's too ugly to face. Another thing that I want to get into is the psychological themes in Mermaid Swamp. At its core, Mermaid Swamp is a psychological horror game. The real monster isn't the ghost of the mermaid, it is the intergenerational trauma and repressed guilt of those connected to the original crime. The swamp is a metaphorical soul. It's drowning in secrets. Rin, the player character, as the skeptic, but she is not above the psychological decay. The game's horror increases not with more action, but with more revelations. The deeper you dig into the house, into the villager's past, and even the hidden room behind the portrait, the more the horror shifts from external threats to internal reckoning. The question becomes not just who is the monster, but how long can you lie to yourself about what really happened here? A deeper layer in Mermaid Swamp is the use of body horror, practically in connection to female suffering. The mermaid is a feminine symbol transformed into something grotesque, a once normal-looking woman transformed into a bloated creature for the satisfaction of its torturer. Yuka's illness mirrors this theme. Her body becomes alien, scales spreading like a virus. Her suffering is passive, ignored, hidden in a room like a shameful memory. The only way her story is resolved is when Rin acknowledges her condition, and the game subtly critiques how society often isolates and minimizes women's pain. Most of the time, Rin was the only person to understand just how much pain Yuka was in, and the other time, Seitaro, most of the time, was always like, she's fine, she's okay, she has a stable conscious, she has a stable breathing, there's nothing wrong with her, like internally, it's only all external. But I feel like Rin understood her pain more, and I think that is a very big reason as to why when she outed those quote-unquote mermaids, That's why she was the one to cry, because she was so in tune with their pain, she understood. It's also notable how beauty is often warped. Yuta's obsession with female perfection leads him to becoming, well, maddening, emphasizing how objectification can lead to dehumanization and ultimately destruction. And that's what makes it so damn scary. It's not the pixelated ghosts or the eerie sound design, though those certainly do help. It's the emotional decay and the inescapable guilt and the slow revelation that horror isn't supernatural. It's historic, personal, and systematic. The game doesn't want to scare you with jump scares out of the shadows, although it does. It got me twice with a really good jump scare. It wants to terrify you with what's been sitting in plain sight. And in doing so, Mermaid Swamp joins a select group of horror games that use genre conventions to say something deeper about memory, trauma, and complacency. And now for my favorite part. As MatPat would say, the lore. Did I do it right? Also, did y'all see MatPat's trying to become a politician? This man went from theater to YouTubing to becoming a politician. Goated status, I'm not gonna lie. Like, bro, don't let nobody tell you what you can and can't do, bro. The core of the game's mythos lies in the old local legend. Long ago, a mermaid was captured by villagers and kept in a tank. Believing her to be extremely beautiful and unable to let her go, the tank was filled with swamp water, and the mermaid became uglier and uglier until eventually they died. Since then, the curse has lingered. Now that is what we hear in the game from the monument that was erected out front in the house, and from the old man himself, and through many writings and diaries. That has always been the facade. But unlike typical folklore, this story has roots in fact, though it's not as mystical as it may seem. The truth is, they aren't mermaids, but they're women. As you progress, you find journal entries, drawings, and hidden rooms suggesting that the mermaid was not a creature of the sea, but a human woman. She was treated as less than human, abused, and exploited. Even when freezing to death in water, she was not allowed to leave the tank. This aligns with real-world fears and the historic dehumanization of women and the disabled. In this reading, the curse is a metaphor of generational guilt, a wrong that festers until someone acknowledges it. Another big part of the lore here is the Sushida's lineage and the source of the curse. The mansion's owner, Mr. Sushida, is a descendant of the man who captured and killed the so-called mermaid. Over the years, the family kept relics from the woman, including mummified bodies in tanks. The object holds the spiritual weight of injustice and slowly infects all who lives near it. The swamp becomes a symbol of a memory, rot and truth submerged beneath polite silence. The curse may not be supernatural in a traditional sense, but its psychological effects are deadly. Hallucinations, guilt, and madness, every character begins to unravel. Yuka is physically affected. Her body begins to transform, echoing the mermaid condition. Yuta and Seiichiro descends into madness driven by obsession and perverse curiosity. Rin obviously is the most grounded, but even she experiences dreams and illusions, suggesting that the swamp, or the artifact, is manipulating the mind, feeding off secrets and emotional wounds. The game intentionally is ambiguous, but here's the most plausible interpretation that I can come up with. The curse is real, but not in the magical spell sense. It is a spiritual conscience of cruelty, guilt, and denial. The mummified remains act as psychic wounds, spreading horror and mental decay to all nearby. Those with ancestral ties to the crime suffer the most, but innocent people like Yuka and Rin are also affected by proximity. Ultimately, Mermaid Swamp is a horror game about facing the sins of the past, acknowledging the humanity of victims, and understanding that cruelty leaves scars, even if we pretend to forget. Whether or not the mermaid was real is beside the point. The real monster is what the people are willing to do to others when they see them as less than human, and the way those horrors echo across generations. So, yes, there is a curse, but it was born not from fantasy, but from human cruelty. Mermaid Swamp isn't just a game about ghosts or swamps, it's a story about how we bury the truth, and how it always finds a way to seep back up. The past doesn't stay dead, especially when its victims were never truly mourned. Yuri's game remind it's so weird. His name is Yuri, just like me. Yuri's game reminds us that horror can be more than blood and jump scares. It's it can be a mirror, a murky, rippling one at that reflects the worst parts of us, the one we pretend aren't there. And that perhaps is the scariest thing of all. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Mermaid Swamp, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hopefully at this point I have earned your subscription. And for more horror game analysis, subscribe, big bro. I'm telling you, bro, I be doing this every week. So until next time, I'll see y'all next time.